Imagine standing in Ethiopia right now. No phone, no map, no roads, no idea what's beyond the next hill. Now imagine deciding to walk, not to a specific destination, just forward, away from where you are, towards something you can't see and have no name for. Now imagine your children doing the same thing, and their children, and their children's children. Generation after generation, walking forward into the unknown. 60,000 years later, your descendants are standing at the southern tip of Argentina. They have crossed deserts, mountain ranges, frozen tundras, and open ocean. They have walked over 20,000 kilometers on foot, and not a single one of them had any idea they were part of the greatest journey in human history. This is not mythology. This is not speculation. In 2025, scientists traced the DNA of over 1,500 people across 139 ethnic groups and reconstructed exactly how this happened, step by step, generation by generation, continent by continent. And what they found changes how you think about what humans actually are. Let's start at the beginning. 300,000 years ago, the first anatomically modern humans appeared in Africa. For a long time, a very long time, they stayed there. But Africa was not one place. It was a continent of wildly different environments. Forests, savannas, coastlines, deserts, and humans were moving through all of it constantly. Not in one dramatic exodus, in hundreds of small, restless, curious movements. This is the part that surprises most people. Ancient humans didn't travel the way we imagine. One heroic group marching bravely toward the horizon. It was messier than that, more human than that. Small groups of 20 to 50 people, moving seasonally, following animals, following rivers, following coastlines where food was reliable and travel was easier. They didn't decide to colonize the world. They just kept moving and moving and moving. Until one day, tens of thousands of years later, there was nowhere left to go. About 70,000 years ago, something pushed a small group of humans out of Africa entirely. Scientists aren't completely certain what it was. The most supported theory is climate, a period of severe drought that made parts of Africa nearly uninhabitable. Resources collapsed. The group had a choice: stay and struggle, or walk toward the unknown. They walked. This group was small, possibly just a few hundred individuals, maybe fewer. All of humanity outside of Africa today, every European, every Asian, every Native American, every Pacific Islander, descends from that tiny group of people who made that choice. Think about that for a second. Everyone outside Africa traces back to a population so small it would fit in a single apartment building. They crossed into what is now the Arabian Peninsula, following the coastline where shellfish and fish made survival possible. They moved east through what is now Iran, India, Southeast Asia. Some kept going south, reaching Australia roughly 50,000 years ago. Australia. To get there, they had to cross open water, multiple times, with no boats as we understand them, likely on rafts or primitive watercraft we've never found, because they didn't survive. But they got there, which means ancient humans were building watercraft and navigating open ocean at least 50,000 years ago, probably earlier. Now here's what fascinated scientists studying their bones. Cambridge biological anthropologists Colin Shaw and Jay Stock compared the leg bones of Stone Age humans to modern humans. The difference was dramatic. Ancient human leg bones showed signs of movement that modern, highly trained athletes don't come close to matching. The bone density, the muscle attachment points, the wear patterns. Stone Age people weren't walking 10 kilometers a day. They were covering distances that would put modern endurance athletes to shame, regularly, not as a special event, as a way of life. And they weren't just walking, they were carrying things. Flint cores weighing several kilograms, transported hundreds of kilometers from specific quarries to camps that needed them. Ochre, the red pigment ancient humans used for body paint and art, has been found at sites over 300 kilometers from the nearest natural source. Someone carried that ochre, on foot, for 300 kilometers. Not because they had to, because it mattered to them. But how did they know where they were going? This is the question that seems impossible. No maps, no GPS, no written language to record routes. And yet they navigated accurately enough to cross continents. The answer is a combination of things scientists are only now beginning to fully understand. Stars. Ancient humans used the night sky the same way sailors used it thousands of years later. The position of the sun, the moon, the stars, the Milky Way, all of it readable as directional information to someone who spent every night under an open sky and had learned to read it from childhood. Landscape memory. Hunter-gatherer groups maintained extraordinarily detailed mental maps of territories spanning thousands of square kilometers. Every water source, every seasonal migration route, every dangerous terrain feature. This knowledge was passed down through stories, songs, and ceremonies, encoded in cultural memory so it wouldn't be lost. The Aboriginal Australians of today still use what are called songlines, ancient oral routes that encode navigation information, water sources, landmarks, and spiritual significance into songs that can be sung to navigate thousands of kilometers of territory. This tradition is at least 50,000 years old. They built GPS into music before they had words for what GPS was. Then there is the question of the Americas. This one is the most extraordinary part of the entire story. About 24,000 years ago, a group of humans in Siberia were living at the edge of the world. Temperatures dropped to levels that should have been unsurvivable. The landscape was ice and permafrost as far as anyone could see. And somehow, they didn't die. They adapted. They developed sophisticated cold weather clothing. We know this because archaeologists found bone needles from this period, with eyes so small they could only have been used for the kind of fine stitching needed to make fitted, layered, windproof garments. They built semi-subterranean shelters with entrance tunnels designed to trap warm air. They burned fat and bone when wood ran out. And then, roughly 20,000 years ago, they started walking east, across a land bridge that no longer exists. Beringia, the landmass that connected Siberia to what is now Alaska, when sea levels were dramatically lower during the Ice Age, was not a narrow crossing. It was a continent-sized grassland, roughly 1,600 kilometers wide, more like walking into a new world than crossing a bridge. They crossed it, spread south. Within a few thousand years, their descendants had reached the tip of South America, over 20,000 kilometers from where they started. A groundbreaking study revealed that early Asians undertook humanity's longest known prehistoric migration, walking more than 20,000 kilometers over thousands of years from North Asia to the tip of South America. No vehicle, no roads, no maps. Just feet, fire, and the same restless forward momentum that started in Africa 60,000 years before. By 10,000 years ago, humans had reached every habitable corner of the planet. Antarctica was the last holdout, and we only got there in the 1800s, with ships and equipment and everything our ancestors didn't have. Everywhere else, occupied. Think about what that means. Our species spent most of its existence moving, constantly, restlessly, curiously moving, into deserts, over mountain ranges, across frozen tundras, through jungles, onto islands so remote the nearest land was hundreds of kilometers away. Not because anyone told them to, not because they had a plan, but because of something scientists found encoded in about 20% of the human population, a variant of a gene called DRD4-7R, a gene associated with risk-taking, novelty-seeking, restlessness, and the drive to explore. Some researchers call it the wanderer gene, and its distribution across the human population isn't random. It appears more frequently in populations whose ancestors traveled the farthest, as if the journey itself selected for the desire to keep going. Here's what this means for you. Every morning you wake up feeling restless, feeling like something is missing, like you should be somewhere else, doing something else, seeing something you haven't seen yet. That feeling has a name now, and it's older than language. It's the same thing that pushed a small group of humans out of Africa 70,000 years ago, with nothing but their feet and whatever they could carry. It's the same thing that drove humans across Beringia in a cold so severe it should have killed them. It's the same thing that got humans to Australia 50,000 years ago on rafts built from materials that didn't survive long enough for us to find them. Your restlessness isn't a modern problem. It is the oldest human program there is, the one that got us everywhere. Every road you've ever driven on, every city you've ever visited, every place on this planet humans have ever stood, which is every place on this planet, exists because someone, at some point, felt exactly what you feel and walked toward it anyway.